The haunting shade. The eternal captain. This is Sevagoth, the shadow Warframe.
Sisters below, we're going where the winds don't blow. Yes, we're all bound down to the deep, and we'll all be sleeping in the cold below, sleeping in the cold below. There's a man on high with the devil in his eye and a golden hand, I'm told. It can hurt you, it can hold you, he can kick you or console you when you're sleeping in the cold below. Sisters below, we're going where the winds don't blow. Yes, we're all bound down to the deep, and we'll all be sleeping in the cold below, sleeping in the cold below.
Oh my god, in my notes I wrote him as Sevagoth. That also fits. Sevagoth utilizes Claw and Shadow to give bonuses to allies and rend his enemies' souls. Sevagoth is a perfect pick for two types of players. One is the super edgy boyos, who seek to be the Shadow Reaper, ripping apart the souls of their enemies and draining their life force. The other, Sevagoth's passive allows him to take control of his shadow upon death, to give him an opportunity to kill 5 enemies, enough to fill a soul counter, which automatically revives Sevagoth. Along with this, enemies affected by Sevagoth's abilities will increase his death well meter. This is utilized for his 4th ability, so we'll talk more about it later. Sending out his shadow, Sevagoth's Reap will cause the shadow to fly in a line in front of Sevagoth, dealing relatively small radiation damage to enemies, while also marking them with damage vulnerability. Aiming while the shadow is in flight will allow Sevagoth to direct his shadow to a different location. The damage vulnerability is the star of the show here. It makes the rest of his kit and his party's attacks more effective. Enemies killed by Reap fill his death well by 5%. Cursing enemies with impending doom. So causes nearby enemies to take true damage every second, with enemies closer to the origin point taking increased damage. Enemies under the effects of So, that are then struck by Reap, will take 25% of their current health as true damage, and deal 25% of their current health as blast damage to enemies within 4 meters of them. Reap and So make each other far more effective than when used separately, which, is thematic. Enemies killed by So also fills the death well by 5%. Unleashing the darkness within himself, Sevagoth's Gloom creates a radius around Sevagoth that slows nearby enemies. Enemies damaged while within the radius of Gloom have their health stolen, healing Sevagoth and his allies. When paired with So, Sevagoth will have a steady stream of somewhat passive healing to aid him, since enemies affected by So are constantly taking damage, while healing him through Gloom. However, Sevagoth does drain energy over time while Gloom is active, as it is a channeled ability, so be aware of where your energy is while it's active. Sevagoth's death well increases by 0.1% each second for each enemy caught within Gloom, making it probably the fastest way to build up the death well. Becoming one with his stand, Exalted Shadow gives you control of Sevagoth's shadow with its own set of abilities. Embrace lifts enemies and pulls them in close to the shadow. Consume causes Shadow to dash and damage enemies with radiation damage, knocking them down and healing the shadow. Death's Harvest marks nearby enemies and increases their damage vulnerability. And Reunite returns control to Sevagoth. The death well drains over time while Shadow is active. Once the well is empty, the player is automatically placed back in control of Sevagoth. While in control of Shadow, weapon access is limited exclusively to the Shadow's claws. Shadow and Shadow's claws are both exalted weapons, being fully moddable with Shadow using Warframe mods. With some good practice, Sevagoth can wreak havoc and be extremely fun to play in my opinion. Especially when combining Reap and Sow. It's just fun. At rank 30, Sevagoth has 370 HP, 335 shields, 160 armor, and 190 energy. He has 1 Matter Eye and 1 Vazarin polarity slot. Sevagoth Prime has an additional 35 more shields, 25 armor, 35 energy, and an additional Naramon polarity, along with more polarity slots for his exalted weapons. Sevagoth's main blueprint is awarded upon completion of the quest Call of the Tempestari, and his parts have a chance to drop from Railjack relic missions in the Vale, Pluto, and Neptune. Now let's see Sevagoth in action one last time.
Oh, sisters, you so wise and true. When it's my time to go, won't you lay me down under granum crowns, and I'll be sleeping in the cold below, below, sleeping in the cold below. Sisters, below, below, we're going where the winds don't blow. Yes, we're all bound down to the deep, and we'll all be sleeping in the cold. Sisters, below, below, we're going where the winds don't blow. Yes, we're all bound down to the deep, and we'll all be sleeping in the cold below, below, sleeping in the cold below, below, sleeping in the cold below.
All hands, Tenno. Drag them to their doom.
Today we sail on the solar rail, for there's much we just don't know. So farewell with a kiss, then it's fast for the mist, till we're all sleeping in the cold below.